Hello, friends. We are going to do a new series on the kind of the dead by discussion-esque thing that I do here. I have named it Maximizing Potential. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go through every killer. I plan on doing everybody. I might not do them all in order just because I know some killers better than others, but we're gonna start with the OG. We're going to start with Trapper. We're going to call it Maximizing Potential. We are going to go through every killer, and we're going to talk about their add-ons, what combinations work better for them, what add-ons are shit, and what, just how can we take every killer in the game and make them the best possible version of themselves that they can be. So, without further ado, getting all that out of the way, we're going to talk about Trapper. The OG, Evan McMillan. Okay, so, Trapper. I'd say Trapper, I was kind of mad at him a while back, and I ended up giving him a really low ranking on my last tier list, which I've gotten over. He's not as bad as I said he was in that tier list. As I played him more, sometimes you just go through phases, dude, and that was my anti-Trapper phase, and I think I'm over that now. I think he's a bit better than I said he was, but let's go ahead and go through it. Let's talk about Trapper, the character, without any add-ons at all. That's the first thing we have to discuss. I'm not going to go too much in depth here because I'm like the least qualified person to go through all this stuff in major detail. But we all know what Trapper does. He starts the match, one trap is already there, and he basically starts small. Like he establishes a board. He starts out smaller, and he has a weak early game, but he's a late game killer. By the late game, he should have traps, his entire board set up to really be able to control the last few generators that are on the map, and just delay that last one from popping. And so that's kind of what he does in a nutshell. He's very slow, but he can end a lot of chases early because of his ability to cut off loops with his traps. His power is very good at anti-looping. It is effective, one of behavior's most effective creations for anti-looping, and it was the first one they ever did. So that's kind of like a very short summary of what Trapper does. Okay, so we know what he does. What are Trapper's strengths? Again, the ability to cut off loops, but like that, you don't really bring Trapper add-ons to like sometimes some killers like to compensate for weaknesses. Others like to accentuate their strengths. Trapper is a character that likes to compensate for his weaknesses with his add-ons. So, and just like and his entire setup, because Trapper has some of the most glaring weaknesses in this game. The fact that his early game is very bad is a weakness of the character, which I've discussed on this channel before. And the fact that the Trapper has a bad early game is worse on him than other killers because of the fact that he has to set up. So he has to multitask every single match. He has to multitask setting up effective traps and still getting consistent downs, adjusting his board to fit the needs of this current situation. There are so many things that this character has to do that other characters just don't have to do. So some Trapper add-ons help make this early game better. They fall into two categories. There are two categories of add-ons that may improve his early game. They are the types that increase the setting speed, and the type of add-ons that increase the number of traps that he carries. So both of these have the same goal, and that's speed the character up a little bit. So let's talk about that. So like the trapper sacks, like the trapper sack. What's another one? Stitched bag is the best one, and then a trapper bag. Like, those are the 3 add-ons that we're talking about here. Trapper bag, 1 extra trap allows for the transportation of 1 extra trap. Trapper bag starts with 1 extra trap, allows for transportation of 2, and then stitch bag starts with 2, allows for the extra transportation of 2. So those are some of his add-ons that deal with the actual speed of I am tired. I'm sorry, friends. And then the other ones are like something like trapper gloves, trap setters, and then the setting tools. Stuff to... In my opinion, these are bad to run together. Because if you run them together, you have easily visible traps, as well as traps that can easily be, like, disarmed. So that's another weakness of the character, the fact that he can get his traps disarmed. So you have to bring an add-on that helps deal with that. So we have a decision to make here. Which one of these is better? Do we value carrying more traps, or do we value the setting speed? I think it's pretty well known that the bags are better. And in case anybody disagrees with me, we'll go through it. The bags are better because he can carry more traps at the same time. Sometimes there's a situation where, you know, you have a trap in your bag. Like, if you have 1 trap. Somebody has tripped a trap, and then you have to, like, reset it. If you're not running the bag, you have to set a trap, then go over, pick up the one you want, reset it, and then pick up the other one. It's like a 20-second process just to do that. That's something that if you're bringing the bag, you can avoid. Those situations like that right there. And then just the ability to, like, also have more in your bag for, like, on the fly during chases. The bags offer more versatility than this setting speed. And that's why they're better. Because they give you more options and save you more time overall. And so I recommend that if you're going to play Trapper, you need to bring a bag every single game. I think the character is borderline unplayable without a Trapper bag. Next, the next types of add-ons are add-ons that deal with disarming. These, again, genuinely fall into a few categories. They fall into a few categories. Like coils, like strong coil spring, 4 coil spring kit, secondary coil, and then the tar bottles, which the way the tar bottles work is they make the trap not as visible, so it can't be seen as well, so they won't even get to disarm it at all if they don't see it. This, I think, is a bit more up to player preference than the choice between the Trapper bag and the setting speed is. I think this can have a lot to do with maps, or yeah, just there's more that goes into this than just one is objectively better than the other. Me personally, I prefer longer disarm time. And the reason I do that is because if they know it's there with the die, it's going to be unaffected and easily disarmed. If they know it's there with the disarm time, that can be the difference between you getting to them or not. But again, it's up to map. It's mostly up to maps. And objectively, when you do bring the die, you get your traps disarmed less. So the die does its job. So one isn't really better than the other, and I think both of those options are viable for the character. Like if you bring the die, it's not, if you bring the die, you're trash. I think the die is very good, and I have run the die before. It's just, I think if I had to choose one, I would pick the disarm time. And then in terms of other add-ons that he has one called Padded Jaws that does inflict damage to trapped victims. You can still pick them up, but like if they just get trapped far away, they don't become injured, but you get 100% blood points. So I don't know if people want to run that or not. It's a weird add-on. Other ones include Serrated Jaws, which can give people the hemorrhage status effect. Like, that doesn't help the character that doesn't cover any of the character's weakness. It's just a little something extra. And then there's the Brusted Jaws, which apply the Mangled status effect. And then, like, I don't think those add-ons are that great, just because those don't do much for the character. The Mangled status effect at least will slow down their healing speed. So if you're not running Sloppy Butcher, you could run that, I guess. But that just be prepared. That doesn't really cover up for the character's weaknesses, and that's why I don't think it's that great. His rare add-ons, Honing Stone is trash against Survive with Friends. It's good against regulars, but Survive with Friends, they'll beat it. Fastening Tools, I actually forgot to mention those. Fastening Tools are actually okay, because they do other things besides just increase the setting speed. They're not like the greatest, but like they're okay. Iridescent Stone is good because that Iridescent Stone is a very good add-on because it saves you time on going to places around the map where every 30 seconds a trap just springs open. So like you don't care if they're like disarming your traps just because one will randomly pop open. So that's a good add-on, and I don't think Bloody Coil is that bad either. The fact that they can injure themselves just by disarming it, so you get information about where they are and you've injured them. So I think that add-on's not too bad. So I think Trapper's best combinations are a Trapper bag of some kind. Like I would take a common Trapper sack into a match before the rare Rusted Jaws. I think the Trapper sack is better than the Rusted Jaws myself. But so do that with what you will. Because now we gotta talk about builds. How do we combine this with builds? Well, Ruin's a staple. You need Ruin on everybody. So Ruin is good on Trapper. Just some stuff I'm thinking about. Sloppy to help slow the game down. Further, he needs some kind of tracking just to kind of help him see where people are, because he doesn't have any of that with his power, aside from disarmament. So Whispers / Barbecue and Chili. You could make the argument to run Spear of Fury Enduring on him because he can be a baseline killer in some situations. I don't think Spear of Fury Enduring is that necessary on him because if you're a good Trapper, you're shutting down loops anyway with your power. So Spear of Fury Enduring, I don't think is that necessary on him. You can make the argument for it. You certainly can. You certainly can make the argument, but I don't think it's the most necessary thing. So always, and then Noed too. I'm looking at my build down there. Noed is also good on him just because he is a late game killer, and that can add to his late game pressure significantly, just because of how good No One Escapes Death is. So you have to just like run stuff to increase your effectiveness in the early game, such as Ruin, and then that's why I think Whispers is probably better on him, just because you need to like have the best early game with this character you possibly can. And Whispers is more useful early game than Barbecue and Chili is. But you know, Barbecue, I'm not gonna insult Barbecue. Barbecue is certainly good on this character as well, just because it gives the amount of information that it gives you. You could take out Sloppy or Noed and put Barbecue on. I'm just like I could do that. That's an option I would have. Just like make sure you are running a bag of some sort. I think the bags are the most important add-ons that he has, because the bags can save so much of this character's time. So you think about stuff like that. Corrupt Intervention. you could use corrupt intervention. I think corrupt intervention is better on Trapper than on anybody else in the game, because a lot of survivors will like wait out corrupt intervention or like the way that they counterplayed it is by stealth, and the fact that Trapper's only objective is not to look for survivors. If survivors are trying to play stealthy and they're not really touching generators for the first 2 minutes because they see you're running corrupt intervention, that it can really help you like get that set up. So corrupt intervention is a strong perk on the Trapper. And again, I think he runs corrupt intervention better than anybody else in this game. So he definitely has a bit of versatility. I think his perks are bad. I think every single perk he has is bad. I think brutal strength is Trapper's best perk, and I think Wraith has a combination where he can use that pretty well. But brutal strength is outclassed by not even Spear of Fury, or just enduring by itself is better than brutal strength. But yeah, just in order to maximize Trapper's potential, you have to, and you can do this any way that you'd like, but I think the objective way to maximize Trapper's potential is to make sure you deal with that early game any way that you can. Make sure that you get set up, have some kind of effective board, by the time 2 gens are done. And just make sure you don't do one thing too long. With this, don't stay in one place too long. Make sure you spread out. There's the thing about Trapper is when he's Playlight, the person that plays him looks big brainy as fuck. And so I think that's one thing I really like about the character is like he can really be played very well. He's a character that's power is better for him in the late game, so you could make the argument that you need less late game perks on him, but I mean, No-Ed's just such a staple. That's why I don't recommend any other late game perk besides No-Ed on Trapper. Like, some people will still run Blood Warden because of the endgame collapse. Don't run Blood Warden on him. It's not worth it. Some people don't even think Blood Warden's a good perk, but like, Trapper's main power, especially if you're like running the Trapper's the stuff that helps you set up, is Trapper's power will make the late game easier for you, especially if you're in control. Where this character needs help, and he needs the help of his add-ons, and he needs the help of his perks, is the early game. So just make sure your build for this character centers around the early game, and you can help negate his weaknesses, which is what is needed to do if you're going to play this character, especially at the kind of levels that all this stuff is like relevant at. This character is certainly not easy to play at high rank because of what you all have, because of how hard early game is for killers, and this is the killer with the hardest early game of all. So it's something you really have to get good at and really have to like know maps, and the knowledge that you have though is that Trapper loves game knowledge. If you have lots of game knowledge, you can make this character work at the higher ranks, in my opinion. There's not many characters in the game that don't really work at the higher ranks. I'm not saying that everyone's viable at rank 1. That's certainly not what I'm saying. But like, Trapper can put in work at some of the higher ranks because of his ability to get rid of loops. Because the ability to get rid of loops, force survivors off of them, is a power that can put in work on survivors, especially if they go to one of their favorite locations and there's like a trap there. That can save you, even if they don't hit the trap, even if they just run by the loop and run to like a weaker pallet that can be mind gamed. You could potentially save yourself about a minute just by putting a trap at a powerful loop. And that's something that Trapper has that I don't think any, because like Hag, the thing that Trapper does better than Hag is his traps are consistent, guaranteed punishes. Hag can still get like palleted because there's like a slight you have to make the Hag. There's room for error, is what I'm saying. Trapper can guarantee a lot of punishes, just with the way he works. And while his early game is slow, once he's set up, he's hard to stop. He's very hard to stop, especially in the late game. And the control that he can have over the board, and especially the Killer Shack. If you get someone in the basement, Trapper can have a lot of control over the shack. And like stuff like using, as what just happened there, using them to sabotaging, disarming your traps to track somebody. Because traps can kind of be used for tracking in that way. His power has a lot of uses, and there's a lot of mind games that can be played with them, like putting them at the pallet and then putting them like at another spot at the pallet, so if they disarm one, they think that loop is safe, but it's actually still not. There's a lot. For as simple as this character is on paper, there's a lot that goes into him to making him work. So, if you want to maximize the potential of this character, you have to make the early game go fast. And I think the bag is the most essential thing to making this character work. But make sure you bring something to deal with disarmament, whether it be the die. Don't worry about the status effects. The status effects are not that worth it. And plus, since your traps have to go off, and survivors have such a control over that, if they go off or not, they have more control over that than you. It's not really worth running things that like give them status effects. I would say. I don't know. That's just me. But trap away, my friends. The OG Daddy Evan McMillan, dude. The best character. Best character, Daddy McMillan. We like him. We'll always like him. He's the shit, dude. He always will be.